Okay. Can you hear me?
Hey, it's Dr. Nancy Shere, and I am welcoming you to a live session here with Jeremy Shere and Yann Ilunga. Sorry, I think I mispronounced your name. And I'm excited to welcome both of these gentlemen. They're with expert content pros, and you're going to find out why they've named it expert content pros, as well as learn a little bit more about the two of them and how they might be able to help you. So with your permission, since I screwed up your name, Yann, we're going to start with you. Is that all right?
Absolutely. I know it's a difficult last name, but you almost got it right, Nancy. So
Say
it was
it
close
again.
enough to Ilunga. It was close enough.
Ilunga.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for having us. We're excited to be here. Ooh.
You probably said, what happened? Where did Jeremy go? Well, that's because I'm letting you have the spotlight. So go ahead and tell us
Okay.
about yourself, all right?
Right. Yeah.
I
Sounds
know I'm
good.
going to screw around with things in the background, okay? Ignore the wizard behind the screen.
Sounds good. Yes, absolutely. So my name is Yann Ilunga, as you mentioned, Nancy. As people may tell from my Macroni accent, I'm actually not from a country many people would guess. I come from Switzerland, from the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland, but I've been living in Finland for 13 years now, almost 30 years. And I've been in podcasting for 10 years. I'm a former journalist. I'm a consulting. I have my own consulting company. And alongside Jeremy, we have Expert Content Pros, which you mentioned, which is a company where we help clients plan, create, and then distribute video they can use to move people through different stages of the funnel: the top of the funnel, the middle of the funnel, and the bottom of the funnel.
Fantastic. And so now I've added Jeremy back to the mix. And guess what, Jan? You and I are going to disappear while we let Jeremy answer the same question about his background.
Sounds
Yeah. Now I have the spotlight. Everybody look at me. So Jeremy Shere, great to meet everybody. I'm coming at you from Bloomington, Indiana, home of Indiana University, although I'm originally from Detroit. But I came to IU. I got a PhD in English literature there, and I was going to be a professor, English professor, but took some interesting twists and turns and got into podcasting, did a lot of that. And I have a B2B podcast production business. And as Jan mentioned, also working with Yann on Expert Content Pros, where we help people create really great high-end video for all stages of the sales funnel.
Yeah. And as you can see, these two gentlemen have an amazing background. And so now they're going to tell you how they have collaborated and are using it in a very creative way. So again, I'm going to disappear while you guys talk.
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
Yann, you can start.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, Jeremy and I met on on an online networking platform called Lunch Club. If you haven't heard of it, I highly recommend checking it out. And there is AI doing the matchmaking, so it's sort of random, even though they try to match you with people that you have common interests and shared interests with. And long story short, we met. We are both former journalists. We've both been in podcasting for 10 plus years, done a lot of interviews, a lot of time spent in front of a mic. We really hit it off. And then Jeremy told me about something he was starting doing, which I thought was really interesting. And he's what he calls, or what we now call, since we're working together, the interview engine. So, Jeremy, take it away. What's the interview engine?
Yeah, the interview engine. Well, it comes out of podcasting, right? Because a lot of podcasts are interview based, right? And I have a background in journalism, so does Jan, and I've even taught writing and taught journalism at IU. So I've done a lot of interviews. I've been interviewed, but I've interviewed probably hundreds, maybe thousands of people, and I've kind of taught students how to do it. And it's just something I'm really interested in. And from doing all that interviewing, it really struck me that for creating video, for a lot of people, the prospect of just kind of getting on camera, especially solo, like staring into a camera and trying to perform, right, is not great. It's awkward, it's stilted, and people are especially trained to do that, right? Like performers are especially trained to do that. It's really not for everybody. And you can find plenty of examples online of people who have done that, and you watch it and you're just like, ooh, that's not great. You can see people's eyes moving as they read a script, all that. And I think that's what keeps a lot of people from doing video, just even the prospect of that, or they've tried it and it wasn't good. And they're like, I'm never doing that again. Right. So I thought, well, how could I help people overcome that? How could I remove that barrier from doing video? And it just struck me, it's been there all along. It's the interview engine, right? Not
There you
everyone's
go.
up for speaking into a camera, but pretty much anyone with maybe just a little bit of planning and coaching can be interviewed, right? Like being a guest on a podcast. That's a pretty good experience for most people because you get to just show up, just like we're doing now, right? You get to show up and just be yourself and just talk and have a friendly conversation without overthinking it or feeling awkward or getting in your own way. So not only is it just a better experience, but I think it results in way better content because, and again, this is kind of at the core of the interview engine concept. I feel like anyone in business, you have all the content that you need, really high premium content. You already have it. It's up here. It's in your head. It's all your experiences and the work that you've done, your opinions, your insights, all these things that you think about all the time that you've gathered over, your career. But it's just not. It can be hard to articulate that, right? It's
So I'm gonna jump in because
yeah,
there's so much juicy content that you've already given us, and I want to kind of pull it out and tease it out a
yeah,
little bit more. And I want to go back to just the concept of doing a video.
yeah,
You talked about the fact that people are nervous in front of the camera, which is true. I certainly was nervous when I first started, and I'm a professional speaker that was used to speaking in front of live audiences. But I'll tell you, a dead camera is not
yeah,
the same as a live audience. So I too felt some anxiety around it. But even before we talk about that piece, which I think you covered very well, what's the value of video? Because
ah,
this needs to be teased out more. Why bother with video? And folks, this
yep,
is of all the search engines going, and we are very quick to search out new information. Video is the second most searched topic. In fact, even Google, which is the most searched engine, has video as the first thing that appears. So
mm.
there's something about video. And would you guys speak to that a bit?
Yeah, Jan, you're the stats master. So throw some stats at us.
Sounds good to me. Yeah. Yes, as Nancy pointed out, video is increasing its presence on Google. You have YouTube, which is the number one video platform in the world, and the second largest search engine, which means that people not only go on Google, but also go on YouTube to look for specific things. So using video is really a no-brainer. And I think that the main reason why you would want to think about video, even though it may sound scary, is that you really get to give people a preview of what working with you and experiencing your brand looks and sounds like. And think about it, for example, now the three of us are talking. We could have done this in written form, but there is a lot that you would lose. You would lose the way we look. For example, in my case, you would miss out on my accent, which you may like or dislike. But the point is, each of these pieces of the puzzle contributes to the experience that we are creating. And Jeremy and I have been, as we said, podcasters for years, for over 10 years for myself. And if you think about also the impact that content has with written content and also how it's consumed, people need to really sit down, and attention span is getting shorter and shorter, which means that typically when you have a long-winded block of text, people are either skimming through it or completely ignore it. Whereas with video, as we said, not only people get to experience you, but they also get more retention. What you share in written form doesn't get through to people as much as what you share in video form, even though it may be the exact same message. So here are a couple of reasons why I think everybody should think about video. And we are not people who went to video or movie school or anything like that. We come from written content, journalism first, audio content with podcasting, and now we are really focusing on video and helping our clients with video as well.
Yeah.
Right. And again, because I'm the sales psychologist, I help my clients obviously get more clients. Video is a beautiful way for them to get to know you and experience you vicariously. They haven't invested a lot of time or energy, right? They haven't actually paid to sit down with you, and yet they're getting a feel about who you are and whether or not there is a comfort level, which then when you actually do sit down and talk about whether you want to work together, you've got kind of a foundation and a springboard. And Jeremy, you're shaking your head, so go ahead and pick up the ball from there.
Yeah, I just want to add to this to say that I think video can also help you solve or at least address one of the biggest challenges that anybody in business can face, and that namely that's differentiating yourself from everybody else out there, right? Say you're a business coach or a service provider of any kind, you have to find some way or multiple ways, right? Ideally, of why should people work with you as opposed to the thousands of other people out there who do more or less what you do at similar prices, right? And if they go to your website, are they going to have an experience that's going to make them say like, "Oh, this is different. I get a good vibe from this that's a little different," or is it going to look and sound like just about everybody else? And the same thing on LinkedIn and on your outreach, right? Video allows you, like Yann was saying, to show up as yourself, unscripted, if you do it the right way, right? With the interview engine, that's our preference, right? But if you do it in a way that is natural and you really are showing up as yourself, giving people a preview of your personality, what it would be like to have a conversation with you, what it would be like to work with you, that's gold. Because even if your offering is not wildly different from other people's, you are different, you are unique, every human being is unique. And so right there, so a simple thing like sprinkling some video into your outreach, right? Having a video in your hero section, welcoming people to your website right away, that's differentiating you way better than any written content ever could, even the best crafted value prop.
Yeah.
Because guess what? Your value prop might be awesome. A lot of other people have something pretty
Yeah.
similar, right?
Yeah.
That's just reality.
So there are so many ways that you can use video. And as you notice, what these gentlemen have done is they've taken something that's very comfortable, an interview process, with skilled interviewers who are drawing this out. And then, of course, they're editing the finished product, breaking it up into smaller pieces that then enable you to put these pieces in different places and again to use them to your best interest. And so with go ahead and explain, I guess, the process of working with you. What would that be like?
Yeah, sure. Do you want to take the lead on this, John?
No, go ahead, because I think it's a nice
Okay.
continuum to the interview engine point that you were making a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I'll quickly walk people sort of through the process, right, of how the interview engine works. So basically, we start with the basics, right, before recording anything. So we start with all the basic stuff. First, just getting to know you and your business, what you're all about, and especially who is your audience. That's always for any content, not just video. That always has to be the first consideration. Who are you trying to engage, and what do they care about? Right? Because that's going to drive everything else. It's going to drive what you talk about, right? So that's where we start. Once we have that, we'll zero in on, for a given recording session, okay, what are we going to cover? It might be one topic, it might be a few, but it's not just what are the topics, it's also how do you want to approach it? What's your point of view, right? Because if you're just going to be saying the same stuff about whatever topic it is that everyone else is saying or that everyone's heard a million times, it's not going to be as impactful, even if it's in video, right? So we help you identify what is your point of view? What can you say that's going to add to the conversation instead of just repeating? So that's part of the preparation process. And we find it can be really useful just to talk that out. A lot of times people might not be sure what their point of view is. And just a few simple questions can draw that out of people even before we start to record. So we nail that down. We handle the technical stuff, right? We make sure you have the gear you need, that you have a place you can record and set it up properly, microphones, lighting, all that good stuff. And we have some gear guides that we send to people and stuff like that. So start with a prep. Once that's nailed down, then we go to the recording session. And that is, pretty self-explanatory, but the point is, if we've done a good job with the prep, then by the time we get to the recording, It's just easy peasy. Everyone, we all know exactly what we're going for. We know who the audience is, and it's a relaxed conversation, right? Geared toward getting clips that we're going to use, right? So we have specific ways of doing interviews. And that's why there is value in working with like professional interviewers, because there's an art and a science to it. It's a
Yeah.
little bit more than just throwing out some questions and hoping you get good stuff and then you chop it up. Now, the way we do it, it's specifically designed so we know we're getting exactly what we need. But at the same time, it's not scripted. So for you, the client, you're just talking. You're just being yourself and showing up and sharing your knowledge, kind of getting out of your own way, so to speak, right? You don't even, you'll probably even forget that we're recording because it's just a conversation. Who doesn't like to talk about themselves and opine about what they're an expert on, right? It's, everyone likes that. You get in the flow. Meanwhile, we're capturing all that. And this can take, in terms of how long it takes, let's say, typically we'll say, give us an hour of your time. We'll create enough video content for the next month, at least, maybe more.
Yeah,
Right?
that is awesome that you're able to take an hour,
Yeah.
which is a real time savings for many of us, for sure.
Yeah.
A great example happened yesterday. I interviewed somebody in her own Facebook group. She was not she was accustomed to being in her Facebook group and talking. She was not accustomed to being interviewed, and yet it drew out from her a part of her that her team never knew about.
Mm-hmm.
Here are these people that she has been relating to, and they know her for years now. And yet the questions I asked and the way I posed it, and initially she was anxious, I have to tell you, even though she'd been in front of the camera multiple times. So this shows you the value of having a good interviewer participate behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, drawing you out in a way that you don't know. And Yann, are you the technician here that then doctors it up and makes it all work?
That's a very good question, Nancy. Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that I also take part in that part of the process, but no, in the sense that Jeremy does as well. So we have the luck that we have similar skills, we have different skills, and we have complementary skills. So both of us are actually able to help clients in the prep session, in the actual conduction of the interview, because as we said, we have done between the two of us, I think over 1,000 interviews for sure. And same with the editing, we both have editing skills. So we basically both are able to help clients at each step of the interview engine process. So the prep, the recording, and then the editing/production side of things.
Right. Well, I know that I would like to continue hearing more and more and more. And if you, listener, watcher, feel the same way, you definitely want to contact these two gentlemen. I'll make sure that their links are listed below so that you can reach out to them directly. And of course, if you want a warm introduction, that always helps too, right? As opposed to talking to someone blindly. Any last words before we sign off?
Yeah, well, I just want to emphasize that I think video's been around for a long time, right? All the things we're talking about are not new. So I would guess that this is not news to most of your the people who are watching this. And video's been at the top of those lists of like the best kind of content for a really long time. But what always strikes me and surprises me a little bit, although I'm not so surprised anymore, is in my day-to-day looking at websites, getting DMs, getting emails, I see very little video. Some people must be doing it, but I encounter very little video like on the average website. And I think that's a shame. I think, and I get why. All the stuff we're talking about, it's awkward looking at the camera. A lot of people don't know where to begin. But I just would love to see more people doing video. Whether you're working with us, that would be great. But even if not, if you're doing it on your own or you find other solutions, I just encourage everyone to explore it and don't psych yourself out right away and be like, oh, I can't do that. That's not for me. That's wrong. Anyone can do it if you know how to approach it in the right way.
Again, another strong endorsement for why you can stand out by having video as part of your marketing protocols. And Yann, any last words you'd like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you, Nancy, for having Jeremy and myself. And I would say as Jeremy said, video's been around for a long time, and there's always going to be that voice in your head that says, don't do it. But I'll tell you what, I don't, I have an accent. English is not my mother tongue. I didn't go to radio school, and I started podcasting. And I recently celebrated 10 years, and I sat down with New York Times bestselling authors, top entrepreneurs, Grammy Award winning artists, and the list goes on and on and on, over 400 people. And not a single person had something to say about my accent or my hosting style or whatever, because I tried to do my best. So I would say, as much as it can sound cliche, just start. Just start, try to do your best, do a little bit of research. If you need help, reach out to people like us. We can help you also from the coaching side of things. But the most important part is just start, because you're having conversations with people. You're having it all the time, remotely, in person, and with video is the same thing. Of course, you want to be strategic with it, as Jeremy was saying a moment ago, but I would say just make video part of your business, because it can be a valuable, if not one of the most valuable assets your business can have.
Amen to that. I'm really glad that I got into video some years ago. It actually started during the pandemic, when I wasn't able to be in front of live audiences. And, as I said, I was nervous speaking in front of a camera that didn't speak back and didn't give me feedback. But, I've learned to embrace the camera. I've learned to let go and be myself. I know you can too. It's just a matter of doing it. Like any muscle, if you don't exercise it, it gets flabby. And so you want to practice being in front of the camera and doing your best. Gentlemen, thank you so much. And again, their contact information, Expert Content Pros. I'll make sure that you get introductions to Yann and Jeremy. To your sales success, this is Dr. Nancy Shere.